Turn15, Austrian Grand Prix Sprint qualifying. Well, no, not Sprint qualifying anymore, is it? It's just the Sprint today, Saturday, right at the arse end of June. Hope you're all well. How are you doing? I'm doing great. A little bit more aerodynamic, probably for the rest of the season. Let's see how long it takes to grow this thing back anyway. So, Verstappen on pole. Who would have thought? Norris second, Piastri third, Russell fourth, Sainz, Hamilton, Perez, Ocon, Gasly, and Leclerc. Disastrous qualifying. So that's the top 10 right there. Not a whole lot of surprise there, except Perez, probably used to seeing him quite a gap back from Verstappen. The only real big surprise in the top 10 is Leclerc making an absolute dog's mess of qualifying, but that was more Ferrari than anything. A bit of tech fuck up and just couldn't get his lap done in time. So not great for poor old Charles there. Although this is a track that you can pass on. Red Bull Ring as well. Absolutely lovely. Lovely corner of the earth. Fantastic scenery. A good track. A very good track. A very simple track. I think there's only like 10 or 11 turns. Not sure how they count it anymore because what was turn 2 is now turn 3, even though they haven't done anything with the track. But whatever. It's a great little layout. Great little place to go racing. Usually it's fantastic. Even the sprint, which I hate. I can't stand the sprints normally, but this should be good because the track is good. And it's always fun when we've got a fun track to race on. Anyway, back to the grid. K-Mag 11th, Stroll 12th, Alonso 13th. So Stroll ahead of Alonso again this season. He's doing okay. Just whisper it. You know, he's probably doing better than a lot of people thought that he might. Either that or Alonso might be getting a bit fed up. Not great when he's just signed a 2-year extension. Then you got Tsunoda in 14th, Sargent 15th, out qualifying Albon, I think for the first time this year then. So good work, Logan. Will it save his career? Probably not, but it's good work for him. Then Ricciardo 16th. Speaking of saving careers going awry, I'm getting the feeling. I'm starting to hear whispers that Ricciardo won't see the end of the season. In fact, he might even be gone as soon as Spa. Liam Lawson is waiting in the wings, and Helmut Marko is very, very keen to get that sorted very soon. Hulkenberg 17th. Not a great qualifying out of Hulk, but, you know, you get that sometimes, and he's usually pretty solid, so it's a sprint. Not a lot of points on offer today, and if the top 8 or, you know, if the top 10 basically finish where they are, which you kind of expect, maybe a little bit of movement, but I wouldn't expect the Haas to really be able to break into that top 8 for points today, so, you know, what does it really matter? Then we got Bottas, Joe. It's like Albon's starting from the pits again. He started from the pits in Canada, I'm pretty sure. No, not Canada. Where were we last time? Spain. I'm pretty sure Albon started from the pits. So a couple of them in a row for poor old Alex Albon. That's a real shame. Not that he qualified much better. I think he qualified 19th anyway. So, you know, you may as well take a bit of a pit lane penalty there. There's always a lot of congestion into turn 1. And I'm going to call it turn 2, into the turn 2 almost hairpin. So probably not the worst idea to start from the pit lane. Of course, there's the whole danger that somebody might do a Kimi Raikkonen in Spain in 2003 and just still on the grid, and that's your race over very, very quickly. So where are we? On the Sky broadcast, just flying over the Styrian Alps. That would be a very interesting race. The Syrian Grand Prix, could you just imagine? Be more like Mario Kart now. With explosions and shit going off everywhere. Anyway, so Albon in the pits. Zhou Guanyu is there just going through the grid. Now, points of interest for this week. I think we'll get into it a lot more tomorrow because there'll be a lot more time. It's a sprint, guys. We've got no time to explain. Get straight into it. Go. I think we've got, 24 laps today, so it should be a very, very quick one and done. I will spare everybody the usual whinging that I do about sprints, other than just a gentle reminder, I don't really like the fucking things, and I kind of wish I was doing something else with me Saturday evening, to be honest. However, F1 racing is always great, isn't it? It's always fun. It's a real duality of man here. I love F1 racing. I love it, and I would watch them race on the moon for 10 minutes. I hate the sprint. I don't like it. I don't like the concept of it. I don't like the point of it. There is no point for it anymore. It was sprint qualifying, and now we're just doing it just cause, I guess. And the only thing is, apart from a bit of action, which is fun, it just kind of spoils the race for tomorrow because we'll kind of know where everybody stands competitively. We'll know which tyres are going to last, etc., etc. It takes away a little bit of the jeopardy out of tomorrow, which is kind of pointless. I don't know. I guess they just like handing Max Verstappen a few more wins and a few more points for a season. Either way, I'm here now, so let's try and enjoy it. So, what else has been happening this week? Gasly staying at Alpine. I did hear rumours that he might be trying to get out of that contract, although he was, from what I understand, he was already signed through 2025. If it was an option or not, I'm not sure, but he was supposed to be staying there through 25, but he's been extended through a multi-year deal, which probably means through 2026 at least, which is probably good for Alpine. Because it means that they've got a decent driver on their hands now when they were very seriously looking at just having Jack Doohan and maybe scraps. You know, it could have been Mick Schumacher or the like. Maybe Victor Martins as the tyre warmers come off the cars here. So we're going to get racing very soon. It's a very short lap, which means a very short formation lap. Look at that crowd already all packed in. You know, that Max Verstappen army, it looks fantastic, doesn't it? It really does. It reminds me of the old Schumacher days when you just get red everywhere in all of these grandstands, just his German fans following around Europe. It's a lovely sight. Love it. You know, big packed grandstands. It's great. I remember back in the day they used to come to Austria, and especially by the end of the tenure, you get maybe half filled grandstands. Everybody on the mediums today, so shouldn't be any pit stops. One thing I don't mind about the sprint weekend, though, is reduced practice time. It's you have to be kind of on it quicker, and I think like simulation technology and things like that they've got now, you know, the driver in the loop simulator and things like that. It's relatively easy to get a setup. Unless something weird is happening with the track surface or something like that, it's relatively easy to come into a race weekend and already have a track set up in mind, which you can fine tune overnight as well with your driver back at the factory, your test driver and whatnot in the simulator. So it's not as vital as it used to be. You know, you really did need a few practice sessions and a warm up and things like that back in the day, but it's a lot less vital to get that sort of stuff now because more often than not, you can tech your way there instead. So we see Max Verstappen now pulling up, going very, very slowly, pulling up around to the grid. So yeah, anyway, good for Alpine to keep Gasly under lock and key. Everybody else, Stroll is staying at Aston Martin as well. We'll get into all of that tomorrow because I'll be here again talking for the real race tomorrow. No surprise with Stroll. No real surprise with Gasly. I'd heard rumours that he might be looking outside, but I mean, realistically, where is he going to go? You know, I didn't hear Williams were really pursuing him, and if you Pierre Gasly, there's no real point chucking out Alpine to go to maybe Audi, maybe, you know. Or Esteban Ocon, it looks like, has thrown out Audi and is... thrown out Alpine and is going to Haas instead. But all of it now is really starting to rely on wherever the fuck Carlos Sainz is going to put his arse in a seat next year, which apparently it could well be Alpine. We'll see. Jos Verstappen on screen there and Christian Horner, they've had a right old tiff this week. Real handbags at dawn kind of stuff. So anyway, pulling up to the grid. Green flag. So here we go. Still waiting on the lights. Aborted start. Okay then. I was going to say, these lights were taking quite a while to get going. I wonder if... I can't see any yellow flags. I don't think anybody stalled. I think something might be wrong with the light gantry. Okay, well, that's that Haas has taken a little while to get going. No, he's fine. Or is that a... No, it's not a yellow flag at the back. They're all fine. Okay, then. That's an odd one. That's something I guess we'll hear about in a little bit more detail after the race. But I'm guessing something just fucked up with the light gantry. That happened last year, 2022, I think, in Monaco, from memory. There was a bit of a delay to the start because the light gantry wasn't working. It was also raining that day as well. What a big mess that was. That was a fun race from memory. Yeah, that's right. That's the one where little Mick Schumacher broke his Haas in half. Anyway, yeah, Stroll staying at Aston Martin is, I think, everybody saw that coming. The big thing for me out of that is where is Tsunoda going to go then in 2026? Because I had him basically earmarked for either Alonso or Stroll's seat when Aston Martin picks up the Honda engine. But if that option is out, then unless Checo continues to shit the bed, in which case Red Bull might be forced to throw him out, and then maybe they'll end up promoting Tsunoda instead. Again, all of this is speculation. Baseless. Not really basing it on anything apart from that I like to think of myself as somewhat knowledgeable about this sport, having followed it for so many years. You kind of get the feeling of, like, what's a logical move? You know what I mean? Sometimes things surprise you. I never saw Hamilton going to Ferrari, for instance. You'd always, like, I'd heard rumours over the years, oh, he'll sign for Ferrari, and you never really took it seriously. At least I didn't, but that was a genuine blockbuster shock move, that was. That really, really, really was. So the car's pulling up back to the grid now. Again, a very short lap. Mercifully short, actually, so we don't have to all fall asleep on the formation lap. Now, Alonso's been quite vocal since the Spanish Grand Prix about the competitiveness of that Aston Martin, and he's got a good point as well, because they have really been going backwards relative to everybody else in the field. The car itself is quicker than last year, but everybody else has caught or passed them. Well, a lot of teams have caught or passed them, so not great for Aston Martin. We'll see what other bits they can bolt onto the car as the year goes on. Anyway, green flag again. Let's see if we get going this time. God willing. Come on, where's the lights? Where's the lights? There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out. Max Verstappen's aced it. Absolutely aced it. Norris is going to come under a lot of pressure from Piastri here. The only thing he's got is the inside line here, and he keeps it pretty much as you were. And look at the slipstream that most of this field is getting now on the run up into turn 3. You know, it's quite actually well behaved. So Carlos Sainz running side by side here with George Russell. The McLarens are still going at it, but Norris just holding that inside line. Nowhere really for Piastri to go. Sainz is going around the outside. It's a high-risk move. We've seen a Mercedes get into other cars in the past there. Sainz has actually nailed that, so good work. And now we got Charles Leclerc and Checo Perez going at it. Where have the Alpines gone? Ocon 10th, Gasly 12th. So they've fucked that one up. Absolutely messed that one up, Alpine. Bad start for them. It's a great start for Magnussen. So all that talk about the top 10 basically staying as they were that I was talking about earlier was completely for naught. Look at the Haas just vault its way to the top 10. A great start. That's really disappointing out of Alpine. Really disappointing. I know that car is heavy, but Jesus Christ. So it's like that's Stroll and one of the Alpines having to go at each other there. And Stroll goes past the Alpine there. Well done, Lance. Good work. Good work. He's having a decent weekend of it so far, Lance. I mean, that Aston Martin isn't that quick, but he did qualify ahead of Fernando Alonso. I get the feeling he would have been in Q3 as well had he not completely cocked up his final corner, which again is all on him. But so starting lap 3 now: Verstappen, Norris, Piastri, Sainz, Russell, Hamilton, Leclerc, Perez. So the top 8 is the top 4 teams basically running almost as you'd expect. Maybe Leclerc could have been a bit higher, but everybody else kind of makes sense. Look at Norris right on the back of Max Verstappen here. So the McLaren Both McLarens actually and the Red Bull are really, really close to each other here. Oh, that McLaren looks very, very quick. It looks very fast. I'm starting to think McLaren might have actually thrown away a couple of his wins in the last couple of weeks, but this car does look very, very, very quick now. I mean, Max is wringing as much as he can out of that Red Bull. And he really is the difference. I mean, you look at Perez way down in 8th there. He's really not making the most of that equipment. But I think this is the difference, because I'd say that McLaren probably overall is a faster car than that Red Bull. The difference being that Max Verstappen is in the Red Bull, and he really, really can get those extra few tenths out that nobody else could. Oh, Norris having a right old look into turn 3. Max has gone a little bit wide on the exit, but it should be okay. Norris will have DRS. You know what? I'm actually kind of feeling Norris might get by him soon. Around the outside into turn 4, I'm not sure about that. It's not going to work. It's a very high-risk move there. The inside tends to drift to the outside corner of the track, like to the outside edges of the track, and we've seen a lot of contact there in the past. In fact, I remember Lewis Hamilton turning Alex Albon around in what could well have been his only race win, turning him around right at the end of the Grand Prix. When was that? Must have been 2020. Yes, 2020. No. Yes, it was 2020. That's it. God, what a crazy year that was. Anyway, riding on board with Norris. I mean, just looking behind him, it looks like everybody's kind of keeping a decent... Oh, Norris is going for it here. He's going to get it. And look at Piastri's going to want to get involved in this as well. Max Verstappen trying to come back at him. Norris has the DRS, but Verstappen has a slipstream. Oh, diving for the inside. That's a good move by Max, but he's going to go wide there. Now Piastri's going to get involved. Oh, amazing. Oh, but Piastri's going to get... Can he keep it in here? He can. Wow. Amazing, Oscar. That's an incredible move by Piastri. That is absolutely top draw stuff. Oh, that's fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic. Well done. I don't know what it is about Piastri, but if a McLaren is going to win, it will be Piastri in the sprint. So Norris has fallen way back here. I'm not sure how much Norris would have left in his tyres for the rest of the race to really go at him here. And what I would also say is, if these front three keep squabbling, just keep a right eye on Carlos Sainz to maybe do something, forcing his way up into the... It's not quite a podium, this is it, because there is no podium celebration. Either way, if Sainz can keep his tyres pretty fresh for the end of the race, we'll see if he can do anything here. You see the top 6 is just almost running nose to tail here. This is fantastic. Leclerc, Perez just a little bit behind them, and then you got the power gap to the rest of the field, who's headed right now by Kevin Magnussen. Kevin Magnussen, who will be desperate for points, who isn't going to get them, not unless something happens to the top 8 here. So just a replay there. Norris really forceful with that pass, and Piastri almost losing his nose in it too. That's a great move by Max to get him back down the hill into turn 4. That is a fantastic move, and this by Piastri as well. So the replay here, on board with Piastri, so he sees Max running Norris wide. That's a hard move, but it's a fair move. And just to keep it around the outside of Norris into that turn, that is fucking brilliant stuff. That is great. Very, very, very nice move. Very nice move. Verstappen saying he's clipping way too much, which I think is the engine. Yeah. The engine, the battery, the power unit isn't giving him what he wants. Max actually has a a power. Well, he will have an engine penalty coming, which they say they're going to take at Spa. I think the engine he was using in Canada basically launched itself and won't be able to be recovered, so he's going to have to start dipping into the excess parts. So, which means if they're going to take an engine penalty at Spa, Spa is definitely going to be worth watching. It'll be just like, what was it, last year or 2022? No, I think it was last year when Max started mid-grid and came through to win actually quite easily. 2023, Max Verstappen was just another beast, though. He was fucking unstoppable. Just an absolute juggernaut. Here's George Russell having a right old look at Carlos Sainz and Lewis Hamilton. So we basically got the first three and the second three are kind of having the same battle here. Teammates trying to get involved with a car ahead. George Russell nailed that pass, though. Absolutely nailed that pass in the bottom of the hill. Good stuff. So Mercedes is really coming on strong lately. Maybe there's a little bit of optimism around Brackley now. Now that Mercedes is quick, it's getting quicker. I'm not sure they're completely on top of it yet, but this is probably the best that I've seen consistently out of Mercedes. The past few races, that is. Ever since these ground effect rules came in, they look reasonably competitive. They had a good package in Spain, and they look like they've got a good package here. They had a good package in Montreal as well. Remember, George Russell was on pole and he led for a lot of that race, so these are three quite different tracks, and Mercedes is relatively competitive in all of them. I mean, sure, they're not leading here, but they're right up there with the Ferraris, which is it's good for them because they really were in danger of falling, especially with the rise of McLaren. They were looking comfortably like the fourth fastest team for a while. So Mercedes is on the rise, which is good news for George Russell, good news for whoever becomes his teammate. Which the Max Verstappen rumours have started up again, but I'm not sure I believe that. Not for next year at least. But I'm hearing that they might even be getting a bit of cold feet about Kimi Antonelli. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe they think that it is too soon to promote him after all. We'll see. If he's quick enough, then he's ready. Basically, Max Verstappen is proof of the pudding there. If he's fast enough, if he's quick enough, then he's probably ready for the sport. You give him a couple years to iron out all the mistakes or the over eagerness and things like that, and you will have a serious racer on your hands. Still hasn't won a race yet in F2, but is always up there at the front. At the front or nearabouts the front, so it'll be very interesting to see once he actually comes into the sport, and it looks like he will be coming into the sport either through Mercedes, maybe with Williams, or who knows, maybe there's a curveball in the mix. So if I'm Red Bull, I might just... Helmut Marko was saying... He's been very vocal in the press the last week or so, just saying like RB is a junior team and they need to have Red Bull junior drivers in it, and Daniel Ricciardo absolutely is not one of them. The only reason he's back is because Checo was under pressure. Now that seat is sorted for the next 2 seasons at least, maybe it's time that the Ricciardo experiment was axed. Should be a real shame for Daniel Ricciardo, because I don't know where he fits on this grid. If he loses his seat now, I'm not hearing a whole lot of other teams lining up for him. I'm not hearing Alpine are after him. I'm not hearing Haas particularly want him, and it looks like Ollie Behrman's going to get that second, the Haas seat. It'll probably be Behrman and Ocon, I reckon, at Haas next year. Which means, unluckily for K-Mag, he's going to have to get his ass out of there. Speaking of K-Mag, still running 9th. In fact, here he is on screen, still running 9th. They had a Stroll and then the 2 Alpines at 11th and 12th, so not great for Alpine today. Really not great. And they've had something of a turn of fortune, this team. They're doing okay. They're kind of coming back. It wasn't looking that great for them. In fact, it was looking really fucking dire for them at the start of the season, but they are coming back a bit. See, the biggest problem with that car is it's just heavy. It's very heavy, which is what I called at the start when they launched it. I knew that it was heavy because there's almost no paint on it. It's basically a very easy telltale that this car is very, very close to the weight limit, or it's, in this case, quite a bit over the weight limit. But Alpine are not sure about them. Not sure about them. You can see why Carlos Sainz has such a dilemma. Like, where do I put my name? Could be to Williams, but they'll probably be at the back. They've got a lot of ambition, but I mean, every team has an ambition. You know, Dale Coyne Racing and IndyCar has ambition. They're not about to win a fucking Grand Prix. Oh, Gasly getting close with Ocon here. Now, Ocon is out of here at the end of the year as well, so I get the feeling he won't really give a shit about playing any kind of team game. Now, you don't want to take each other out here, because you got qualifying coming up soon, and the last thing you want is to damage the car, and then have to rebuild it and just hope that it's all put together properly again before qualifying. Especially when you absolutely have to go out and send it, as Jack doing there. So I've had his name linked with the second Alpine seat. But then I've also heard that Mick Schumacher is being considered as well, and he's an Alpine driver in the World Endurance Championship, so there's a pretty easy connection to make there. The name as well, I think, is good for Alpine. I've also heard Zhou Guanyu's name mentioned there. And then you never know what's even going to go on with this team. Like, how serious is Renault about keeping it? How serious are they about keeping the engine program going? Do they want to do this shit anymore? As Gasly again, just looking around the inside of Ocon, into the hairpin at the top of the hill, and I can't quite get it done. It's not quite a hairpin, but it's pretty bloody close, so I'm just going to call it a hairpin. It's a very, very, very tight corner. But it'll be interesting to see what happens to this team in the end. I get the feeling, I get that feeling that Renault are going to sell it. If they can, the engine program, I don't know why they would bother keeping this thing anymore. It's kind of just run its use by date. They can't get it competitive. They're not willing or not able to invest in it enough to get it competitive. And now that part of the team is also owned by that conglomerate that owns, what is it, Ryan Reynolds and that fella from It's Always Sunny, are partos of this team now. So I think the idea of selling this team for quite the profit, and I don't think an F1 team would get more profitable than in this season, the next couple of seasons maybe, before it will start to taper off again in terms of popularity. It's just the way these things go, isn't it? I don't think there'd be a better time to sell than around now. So that might come into their consideration. I mean, if you're trying to launch Alpine as a serious car brand, and then they're in F1 getting their ass beat constantly, and the team's in total turmoil. In fact, apart from the absolute horse shit that's going on backstage at Alpine, you just don't really hear about them. You know, they had their win in Hungary 2021, fortuitous as it was. They had that win. They could probably rest on that, and I just don't see them doing anything else. Not unless there are some massive, and I don't just mean a bunch of sackings. I mean some decent hiring, some decent investment in that team. I just don't see it going anywhere. They're basically like the French Haas. They'll just be spinning their wheels forever. Meanwhile, goodness me, we are working lap 15 of 23 now. Remember the extra formation lap? We've knocked off one of the laps of this race. Verstappen's leading now by 2.2 seconds from Piastri and Norris, and then Russell, Sainz, Hamilton, Leclerc, Perez. That's your top 8. That's your point scorers. And then you got quite the gap after that to Magnussen, Stroll, Ocon, Gasly, Tsunoda, etc. That Sauber team is awful far down as well. They're really just not getting it together. They're really not. And that car's not great. The pit stops are still going wrong. It's a real shame. It's a real shame for that team. They're just not getting it right. I think the sooner the Audi program starts in earnest, the better, because this is just kind of painful to watch, to be honest. This is like back in the day. This is like the bad old days when you'd see John Lacey or Johnny Herbert or whatever driving for him. But even then, they were more competitive than now. Like this version of Sauber is just, there's nothing to it. That's a replay there of Daniel Ricciardo in a one-off helmet. 250th race for the fella today, actually. Or tomorrow, rather. Just a hell of a number, to be honest. I suppose he has been around for a very long time now. I remember back in the day, 250... I think it was Riccardo Patrese did 256 races, and that was seen as just some sort of phenomenal number, but you see a lot of guys beating that nowadays. I mean, there's so many races per season. If you hang around for about a decade, you're probably going to beat it. I mean, when Patrese was doing it, there was, 15 races, 16 races a year. So it actually really meant something. I suppose it means something anyway, but you get what I mean. Anyway, here's Lando Norris chasing down Oscar Piastri. I didn't see it. You know what? I'm starting to think this sprint, like the rest of them, after the first few laps of decent action, is just going to kind of taper off into nothing. And I'm hoping that I've jinxed that just now, because it sure would be nice to see something happening here. Like Sainz, Hamilton are quite close to Russell. Norris is quite close to Piastri. But unless somebody really sends it wide into one of these corners and catches a gravel, I just don't see anybody really going for it. Like, what's the point? Especially the further you are out of the point. So when you got qualifying coming up later, and not a lot of time to rebuild a car if you cock it up. Like, what's the point? So Norris coming closer a little bit to Oscar Piastri, but I think Piastri's got it covered here. In fact, I'd be surprised if McLaren weren't already on the radio, or maybe they told them in the debrief after lap 5, 6, 10, whatever it might be, no more racing, just hold your position. And it doesn't matter who's first or who's second or, any of that sort of shit. Hold your position. That's all there is to it. Because to get by him, Norris is going to have to really send it here, and I don't think his team would appreciate it. I really don't. Because the team, it doesn't make a difference. They still got second and third in the race. It doesn't matter who's in front. I mean, look at Norris. He is staying kind of close, but... And he's got the DRS. There's just not quite enough of a delta over Oscar to really put a move on. Just look at Norris going so deep into these corners as well. I mean, you could tell he's really pushing. He's not just like letting him get away with it here. He's really, really trying to close the gap. I just don't know if there's... Without pit stops... Without that strategy and things like that, which is part of Formula One, or at least it's part of modern Formula One, there's just not really any... there's not really any room to maneuver your way ahead of a car like that. In a regular Grand Prix, you could have maybe Lando tries to overcut, maybe Oscar will try to overcut or undercut, or, anything, something like that. But the sprint race is just basically, a little bit sideways there from Sainz and a bit sideways there from Lewis Hamilton out of turn 1 too. Again, they are pushing it. It's not like these guys are just cruising. They are pushing as much as these dog shit Pirelli tyres will let them. There's just not a lot of opportunity here to really go for it. Especially when everybody starts on the same tyre. I suppose one way you could spice up the sprint In fact, fuck it. Why even bother spicing up the sprint? Just cut it down to like 3 laps then. I mean, fuck. Everybody else is if the whole point, the whole point is that we jumble the grid for the race. I thought that was the selling point of a sprint race, and it was sprint qualifying. I don't know. Nah, fuck it. I'm gonna have me old man yelling at a cloud rant here. I don't know why they're doing it. And there's me, the sad cunt, watching it because I fucking love the sport, but I don't know why we're here. I don't know why we're doing this. You could kill for a pit stop or something like that, but I think because pit stops aren't going to happen, you just know nothing's going to last. There's not enough time for a proper stint to play out to really affect these tyres. There's no chance to extend a stint or to cut a stint short and have a little bit of pit stop jeopardy that way, or jumble up the order or things like that. It's just like F1 cars just don't race well like this. They just don't. And once you start getting guys gapping because their tires are overheating, and who's that? Alonso's just dropped a position or 2 there, it looks like. I think he was running 14th last I saw. He's 16th now, so he might have had a little off. Looks like that would have been at turn 2. I'm sure we'll see a replay of that. Here's a replay. That's a Haas. That's Nico Hulkenberg. That's Alonso on the outside. So what's this? He's just sent it. He's done a Nico Rosberg. He's done the Nico Hulkenberg into turn 3, and it's totally fucked Fernando over. Because Alonso's got to lose a position to Ricciardo here as well. Yeah, closed right off there. That pushed off the track. I think that might even be a penalty for a Hulkenberg there. Not sure about that. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Not sure about that one. I think Fernando will be seeing... Well, he'll be bothered at the move itself. I don't think he'll be bothered about losing 14th place. I don't think he gives a shit about that. Meanwhile, Albon, starting from the pit lane in a sprint, has overtaken both of the Saubers. So their struggle session continues. Either way, final lap. Here we go. It's almost done. Praise be, it's almost over. Verstappen, Piastri, Norris, Russell, Sainz, Hamilton, Leclerc, Perez is the running order. That's probably going to be how it finishes. Unless something really weird happens, I just don't see anything happening. It looks like pretty decent gaps. Norris didn't get that one done. There we go. Race control is going to look at Hulkenberg and Ocon. No, Hulkenberg and Alonso, rather, from just before. I get the feeling Hulkenberg's going to cop a 5-second penalty for that. Not that it really matters when you're down in 14th and 16th place. Yeah. I think Hulk will probably end up copping a penalty for that, to be honest, and probably deserve it as well. Anyway, Max Verstappen comes around the final quarter to put us all out of our misery. Good work, Max. Another sprint, another win for Max Verstappen. Another race, another win for Max Verstappen. The juggernaut continues. Piastri second, Norris third. Russell, Sainz, Hamilton, Leclerc, Perez. That's your point scorers, and then behind him will be K-Mag in ninth. So well done, K-Mag. It's a shame it doesn't mean anything. And then Stroll in 10th. Again, shame it doesn't mean anything. Then you got Ocon, Gasly, Tsunoda, Hulkenberg, Ricciardo, Alonso, Sargent, Albon, Bottas, Joe. So not a lot of movement, to be honest, in this one. Even though it's Austria, even though the track encourages good racing, not a lot of movement in this sprint. It was one of the... what should we rate it? Out of 5, let's rate it a 1 star, because I fucking don't care about sprints. I mean, I watch them because I'm sad as shit, but... The good thing is, there's no more sprints now until I think they go to Kota. I think it's Kota... Qatar. There's one more near the end of the year as well. I forget where. but I'm pretty sure it's one of the North American races. Not Vegas. Don't think it's Mexico, unless it is Mexico. No, I don't think so. Who cares? Either way. Oh, Brazil. Of course it's Brazil. So that's the last sprint race that we'll have to suffer for the next couple of months. Thank goodness. This is a decent preview, actually, for tomorrow, so Max Verstappen will win. But who knows? You know what? Because tomorrow, tell you what, if tomorrow's race is better than this, that's really all the proof I need to get the fucking sprints out of here. Not that we ever will. We're stuck with them now, so fantastic. But you can really tell days like today when there is no pit stop jeopardy, when there's no strategy or things like that, it is just a flat race. It's a flat fight, and this is only ever going to be the result, really. It's only ever going to be like this, especially when you've got not a lot of points up for grabs, and when you've got qualifying in a couple of hours. There's no incentive to really go for it. There just isn't. Just doesn't really matter. Very inconsequential. Anyway, 35 minutes past the hour. We are done here. Thank you very much for tuning in for my silly little rants and all of that shit. Should be a lot more of an interesting race tomorrow. God willing. It's more of an interesting race tomorrow. I don't think there's really anything else to go over for today. I think it could all wait till tomorrow evening. So anyway, thanks for joining us here. Short and sweet. Well, short and short. Thanks for joining me. Hopefully I'll catch you tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, whatever it is you're doing. Enjoy your Sunday too. I'll see you tomorrow evening. Ta-ta for now. Thanks for joining. Cheerio.